Thank you, Chairman. Secretary, welcome to the committee. I've always thought that your job may be the best job in the federal government. I hope for your sake I'm right. It's a challenging job with great opportunities. We haven't had a chance to visit yet, so I'm going to actually spend my time talking to you a little bit about a big project in Missouri, the Arch project. A lot of cooperative effort has gone into that so far. Your predecessor, Mr. Salazar, was there 3 times. 2 times there with Mr. LaHood, who there was a Tiger grant. I don't know if you're familiar with how the Arch sets, but it's separated from the rest of sort of the downtown mall by Interstate 70. The Tiger grant seems to be in place that will actually connect the park to the rest, to the old federal courthouse where the Dred Scott case was, and a lot of other public land in town that's not necessarily federal land. This is, I'm told, maybe has the potential, already is possibly the biggest joint partnership project that the Park Service has ever done. The city just voted a $10 million annual tax for the next 20 years that would support this project. I think there are $220 million of private funds that have already been pledged. So the Arch is 50 years old in October of 15. So, you know, every 50 years you've got to look at these things and see what needs to be done to be sure they can last another 50 years. And that 50th anniversary was one that Secretary Salazar, it's October 15, said I think his comment the last time he was there was he would move heaven and earth to get this done by October the 28th, 2015, which appears it might be easier to move heaven and earth than the department. So right now, everything there does seem to be a tendency that I'd like you to look at. You don't have to necessarily comment on it today. These things are getting siloed again. The one big request from Mayor Slay and others in St. Louis is if you could put somebody in charge of this, that one person that really tries to be sure that all of this stays on focus, on time, that the private and public elements of this that aren't federal continue to move forward in a way that that all works. I know there's one contract with Bi-State Transportation that's run the trams in the Arch since the beginning, and that contract runs out. It actually expired December the 31st, 2012. There was a 6-month extension that expires in 54 days, and it needs some attention pretty quickly. And for bonding and other purposes to update the equipment that I think Bi-State does. I don't think the federal government even does that, but they have to have a contract that allows them to do what they need to do. And I think the Park Service has come in with some amendments that have never been in the contract before that they're concerned about. So I guess one thing I'd like to ask you to do is make a commitment to come and visit us at the Arch and get personally involved in this project as your predecessor was. And then any comments you want to make about how public-private relationships are going to be viewed as by your department and by the Park Service would be appreciated.
Thank you, Senator. I do look forward to meeting with you directly and also visiting the Arch. Certainly would be delighted to do that. There is a point of contact, Peggy Odell, who's the #2 person in the National Park Service, and so you can look to her as the focal point on this. And I was briefed on it. I can't promise that the heaven and earth thing, I think that may be beyond my pay grade, but
well, the guy that did promise that left, so well, maybe it was a bigger promise than he thought.
But to your comment about public-private partnerships, and I think the St. Louis Arch is a great example. From the private side, which is where I've been for my 35-year career, there's no question that the ability of private enterprise to work closely with our federal land management agencies, whether it's Park Service or the U.S. Forest Service, other elements of Interior, is really important to leverage our resources, to get buy-in from those communities, so that you have an asset like the St. Louis Arch that's not just a national treasure, but it is locally embraced and taken care of, and it helps make our federal dollars go farther. So I think that it's a great illustration of public-private partnerships in action, and I think there are going to be many more opportunities to do that kind of work as we think about these assets that we care a lot about, that we want to protect, and there are examples of them in other states as well. So,
You know, this is a case, too, where there's significant adjacent public property that obviously is visually part of
Right.
this whole experience. And I think the Park Service, if you're going to encourage other partners, both public partners and private partners, the Park Service has to be willing to look at this in a different way than they have before. You know, if the Park Service continues to look, well, we can't let this happen unless it's something we totally control, that's not really a public-private partnership. It's something, but it's not a public-private partnership. And so, yeah, I think one of the things that as a new leader at Interior you can help instill is how partnerships really work.
right.
And it's not just one side giving you all their money and saying, do whatever you think you ought to do with this. And so, you know, the community's made a huge commitment, individuals are making a huge commitment, and I'd like for you and I to be able to work together to make this a model project of what these partnerships can be moving forward. Not every time a community comes up with $200 million or private individuals match that with another $220 million, and we need to do the kinds of things that will be a good lesson going forward to encourage that, and I'll do everything I can to help you make that work.
Sounds great, Senator. Just if I could have 5 seconds.
Yes, ma'am.
The National Park Second Century Commission that Chairman Reed mentioned in his opening comments talked a lot about public-private partnerships, and I can tell you in my conversations with Director Jarvis over the National Park Service, he's very supportive of this, and I think increasing flexibility on how we recognize these kinds of partnerships and encourage them going forward. Thank you.